This computer. Hi, Chris.
Hello, hello. We're back.
Paprotny.
Yep.
The front off again.
There's only so many times you can butcher it and then you'll nail it. I know, but having said that, last week you were fine, and then when we went live, it went wrong.
So you're Norway.
Am I where?
Norway.
Norway? Why
I
would I
went
be
to
in Norway?
Tromso. We went to Tromso as a family, but we went
Right.
in June.
Yeah.
Um, so we flew to Norway to Oslo, and then we flew up to Tromso, and
Right.
then we got a car and kind of went to this tiny little remote place.
Yeah.
And it was actually something I'd seen it in a magazine, and it was an Airbnb that Meghan and Harry had been to. It
Right.
was super expensive, but and we missed the first couple of nights because BA had messed up on their flights, and we had to get a different flight a couple of days later. Um, yeah, so it was like, but we didn't see the Northern Lights because it was midnight sun. Didn't actually get
Ah,
dark. It was light
yeah.
all night, and it
It's
was,
right. My
freezing cold.
background's quite all right.
Yeah, but it's actually.
Make up for it.
Have you seen the Northern Lights? You can see them in
I
Scotland actually now, can't you? Or
I
northern
think,
kind of
yeah, I think so.
parts.
I've never seen them personally, but I've seen obviously imagery of it and video of it and things
Mhm.
along those lines. But yeah, it's one of those that it's clearly a globe reflection plus a
Mhm.
potential light from the North Pole that is
Yeah.
projecting the sky onto things. And yeah, there's a load of concepts and theories that you can potentially go down as to why it is and
What
why
do
that
you think
kind of happens.
about that?
So
About I mean, flat Earth
so
and the
I
firmament and
I went
rainbows being like
yeah. I went through a phase of obviously taking everything as this is what I'm told and this is what it is.
Mhm.
So obviously when you come up through school and when you're learning, you learn that obviously the world is round and that Christopher Columbus went to
Yes,
the
but
Americas
before
and all of
that,
this
prior
other
to
stuff.
that, I used to learn it was flat, and then they
Yeah.
changed it.
Yeah. But that's obviously what they do. They
Yeah.
get rid of all the old maps and they get rid of all of the old knowledge. And then if you skip a generation, then you can re-educate as if nothing before it ever happened. And then you're basically back at the starting point of you either explore it yourself and then you uncover things, or you just take what you're shown as it is what it is.
What
But
about the
I
flight
went through,
path? So you know how the
hmm,
flight paths, and it's like where
yeah,
do they refuel? And they just
yeah.
don't make sense if you look on the round Earth
Well,
map.
I don't think you can
That's it.
fly technically from South America to Africa,
Hmm.
right? On a globe, because you don't literally just go across. You have to go via some other thing just to go over there. And it doesn't make sense
Hmm.
because you think, well, if this flight is going to take me, say, I don't know, 24 hours if you're going to somewhere like Australia from America, why
Hmm.
don't you just fly the other way round the globe? Because then it would take you half the time and you're basically neighbors and next door.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't make sense unless you put everything onto a flat map. But the thing as well is if you have a look at the language that's used, you fly by a plane. Obviously, it's spelled plane, but a plane is just a flat
Flat plane.
surface.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The right thing.
So you've then got the fact of when you have all of these pilots, they don't sit there and factor in curvature of the
They
earth.
don't at all. No.
So if you put it on autopilot, it flies in a straight line. So it's obviously you have to go up and down, but you're not factoring in some curvature whereby the Earth disappears and you just fly straight and then hold on, you've then got to go down because it's not going to work from a aerodynamics perspective. So you've also got that side of things, but you've then got the whole structure around it that is, well, you're going to have people questioning it because you can't know for sure, but there's too many things that would suggest that everything is flat
Mhm.
because the drop off, even if you do it over a couple of miles, doesn't exist. So if you can see, I think at the minute, I think you can see the Eiffel Tower from London.
Right, can you?
There is a point in London that you can see the Eiffel Tower. So based on that distance, the drop off should mean that it's never on the horizon. But yet you have a viewpoint whereby you can potentially see it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So that would suggest that it doesn't have the drop off. And then I think they've done tests in terms of over lakes and rivers and stuff over in America, whereby it's like 3 miles long and the drop off just literally doesn't happen.
Mhm.
But also, if you have a look at like street lights, if you have like a really long street and you have multiple lights in a row, the further away they get, the lower they get, and then they disappear into the horizon. But what you know is that when you move towards them, they are just standard height streetlights. So it's this perspective that the further away something is, the more it drops off and obviously goes down. But the reality is that it doesn't.
Yeah,
It's
so it's
just
knowledge as well, and your
scaling of
brain
the,
doing what it
yeah,
thinks it should do as well.
exactly. So in order to make sense of it, they are all the same height, but as you go further down the line, it obviously converges to the horizon at that point. So there's an awful lot of stuff that's out there that would suggest that it is flat.
Mhm.
And also you have to find that it's sea level, and water will always find its level. But in order to find its level, you have to have a container. So that would suggest that you don't have a dome in
Yeah.
terms of a globe. You have to have a dome in terms of something external, which you could argue is Antarctica, but obviously it's in the South Pole.
What do you
But
think's happening there then?
if you think of this ice wall that's basically the continent, which is all around the outside of the flat Earth, then what you have this container whereby the water can stay within the ice walls. However, if you look at it from that perspective, it changes your entire construct of the world map. And if you have a look at some of the countries on the world map, they're a lot larger than what they would be as if they were just normal land masses. And part of that is to offset, obviously, the racial background and the cultural background of blacks and whites, so that some of these places are larger than others, and therefore the significance is kind of portrayed in terms of size of country rather than actual demographic or anything along those lines. But it doesn't make sense from what we're told if you use basic logic. Because if you have this ice wall and you have this flat Earth plane and you can fly from one side to the other side, then if we were looking at outer space, but we treat outer space as in obviously up and the planets and the solar system, but outer space is just going to the ice wall that's Antarctica and then going beyond it. So the space is where we operate, as in the continents we know and or Earth as we know it, but outer space is beyond that wall.
Mhm.
So it's not up, it's actually out. And then because we're going out, then the question is what's out there? Because we've clearly been contained here, because why else would all of the countries agree not to bother with going beyond a certain point?
Yeah.
It's too coincidental. It's like
Why do
tell me
people just
something
not
without
question
telling me
stuff?
something.
Why do people not question stuff? It's like all these physicians,
Mm,
and gravity and everything. It doesn't need to spin to drop. And
yeah.
it's like people just assume that we need to be spinning for all this to work. And it's just,
Well, if you
I don't
look at
know.
that in simple terms, gravity is just magnetism. You have opposites. So if you're positively charged and the Earth is negatively charged, then the positive and the negative will attract. And as with magnets, if you put them together, you can pull them apart. But ultimately, if you put them close enough and don't put a resistant force, i.e., you're not jumping, you
Mhm.
can push and pull between the two kind of mechanisms. But you then have this whole structure that's designed to make you think that you're being pulled in towards the center of the Earth. But then we know that north, south, east, and west is designed just to keep you stuck. North will always go back to the center. South, you're never pointed to. And east and west just go around in a circle. So everything is then contained. But if you think about flying through, I don't know, what we classify as the galaxies and the solar system and everything else, then how can you have somebody on this planet that then jumps if the Earth is moving at 1,000 miles like an hour and you don't then somehow jump and magically end up in, I don't know, America?
Yeah, and then it moves.
By the time that you've landed. It's like it just doesn't make sense. And yes, you could argue that if something's in inertia and it's in movement and it's always continuing in movement, then the mass of the object based on the height of the jump isn't going to do whatever it is. But it doesn't make sense because if you're spinning at 1,000 mile an hour, then if
It's
you're
having such a
spinning
laugh.
around other objects
Mm.
and yet those objects have to follow you through space, it
And
it
satellites
doesn't
don't even
logically
exist.
make sense.
All of our wiring is underneath the sea as well. All of the
Yeah.
telecoms, all under the sea. 95%, I think, or something like that.
Well, we're told
And
that
there's no,
GPS is global positioning satellites.
but it's not, it's a system.
It's a ground positioning system,
System, yeah.
right? So even that in itself, it doesn't make sense because yes, you can track it, but yet why are you told to go to aeroplane mode if you're up in the sky? Because you haven't got all of the telegraph poles around you in the network so that you can actually get a connection. Because it's a ground positioning system.
Yeah.
If you're in the air, you're not on the ground, therefore you can't have the positioning. Yes, you can track certain things if you have certain kind of structures, like the black boxes that they have in planes. It's like you can tag that and you can send signals frequently to and from it, and therefore you can get a position because that's the system that it's designed for. But ultimately, beyond a certain point, pretty much anything and everything you were ever told is a story that was passed on by somebody that never challenged something. And if you think, how many generations does that go down? Because if you skip a generation, then you can misinform a generation and have that then become the new normal.
Hmm. Yeah.
And if it's that easy to do, then the case or the question becomes at what point in history was all of our access to information wiped out? Or when was the story and the narrative changed? And you're not going to be able to pinpoint it, but there will be a point in time where there was a massive shift. And I think one of the early kings that was around sort of the first couple of centuries, they wiped out half of the Bible. They wiped
Right.
out half of all of these kind of manuscripts and all of these teachings that are more old school teachings, so that obviously you don't have access to it. Then you bring in the school system and then you teach different things because you've got a different or an ulterior motive in mind that then becomes the forefront of how do you set up an economy. But then if you think about the economy, it's like you're trained to go to school to get a job, but then you get paid for the job only to pay the pay of the job back to the people that are paying you in order to survive in a system that's basically dysfunctional because you don't ever have any money
We don't have any
because
money because everything, yeah. I mean, everything is
because
so
you're paying it.
expensive now. It
Yeah,
just, no one's earning enough, are they? It's crazy.
no, but you're paying a system.
This is a book I accidentally bought. I put it in my basket on Amazon and then clicked buy by accident.
Mm,
And it's too huge to the trash. This is supposed to be the real history.
yeah,
Have you got that? This is like
I I
different
don't
history.
read books that big.
I kind of listened on Audible to the 101, which is like the small
Yeah,
book that goes with it. I mean, I didn't realize it was going to be like that. I mean, I'd never read that now. It's just too huge. But
yeah. I
but this is
suppose there's
this
bits
is a
in it.
completely different history to the one they teach in the school.
Yeah, but they say history was taught by the victors. You never get the losing side of the story because there's nobody there to tell it.
Yeah.
So, what narrative do you then want to push at
Um,
that point? But it comes back to society as well. It's like you're pushing this narrative, but ultimately you're expelling energy into a structure and a system that you're then paying in order to be in that system in the first place.
mm,
So, at what point do you realize that the system only benefits the people that set up the system. And then we come to the point of obviously now where everybody's assumed to be waking up, but we're looking at that from a place of people being slightly more aware of what's going on, but we still have the fear
Everything.
and the authority complex. Hmm?
They've got the wars to look at and Gaza and see what's going on there with everybody and just,
But there's always money for wars. Have you ever noticed?
well, they make, yeah, billions
Is it?
out of the
Yeah, but
arms.
there's always money,
Yes.
and you can print money for an economy if there's a war. But
Yeah, and they're
yet, if
printing
there's a
money
healthcare problem or if there's a food shortage or anything like that, there's not enough. You have to budget for it, or taxes go up.
and have a
So
massive
it's
deficit.
yeah. So at
They
some
can't- they
point
just
somewhere,
pay their deficits off and borrow off
we're
each
just
individual countries.
pawns in somebody else's game by the sounds of it. But then if you have a look, I think more so recently, it's like things like the Hunger Games are becoming more apparent.
Oh my God. And the Hunger Games, that's like that really happens in circles for I've gone to Satanism again. They
Mm.
actually do that.
But you've got each of the districts, and the districts could be anything. It could be race, it could be gender, it could be whatever you want to kind of put into the segregation element. But then you have to realize that everybody's being played against each other. The only people that are actually winning are the people in the gallery with the money that are probably betting on who's going to win. So are these people going to wake up and actually realize are there people that are chosen to come and push the systems and break down the structures and form another revolution of some kind? And you're probably just playing off all of these dynamics in order to then get to a position whereby somebody at some point is benefiting from what you expect to just be a game.
Well, Bugs Bunny comes from that, from the 1950s. I
Hmm.
mean, obviously, you know,
Yeah.
um, obviously it was all kind of, I don't know where it would have taken place, but like this has been going on, human hunting.
Yeah. But I think most of it's just harvesting of energy.
Mm.
So if you think about it, if you're not in control of your energy, which is you as the being or you as the consciousness, then attention becomes the currency. And if attention is the currency, then how do you get people to misuse their attention? Because what you can do is you can then harvest it. You can then get people into situations and scenarios like Glastonbury. That's massive gig, massive kind of vibe and volume and the energy that's going to be contained in that area. There's a reason why it's held where it's held because they
Yeah,
have a way of harvesting that energy of all of those masses of people for whatever it is that they're using it for.
really, I didn't know about
So,
that.
but
Isn't
it's the
it
same with all these
Stonehenge?
massive venues. If you ever look at the massive venues, like look at where people gather in masses,
Hmm.
and all you have to do is give them a bit of entertainment. So it's like in the Roman Colosseum, what
Yeah.
did they do? They just
The football
harvested people's
stadiums,
attention.
Wembley,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah. But it's harvesting people's energy in a contained area that you can then utilize it for some other purpose. Because otherwise, it's just wasted energy. You got to think all these people that are watching all the, and don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with watching sport. There's nothing wrong with going to events and gigs and stuff and having life experiences,
That's just a distraction, isn't it?
but
From
it's
what's
a
going on
distraction from what your actual purpose is of being here.
or what
So you
they're
can
up
have
to.
Yeah, so you can have all of these experiences, great. But the question is, you're not then doing something with your life. So that's the trade-off that you have between the two. It's a rather than focusing on me, rather than becoming more of a sort of a complete soul,
Mhm.
then where's my energy being harvested? And that could be all of these events, that could be all of this misattention and distractions. This can be narcissistic relationships. This can be traumas. This can be whatever it looks like that basically interferes with your system. And this is why when we go back to the earlier, it's not an up and out as in the solar system. It's an inside, which is the soul system.
Oh, the solar system.
So you have solar in terms of light, but you have the human body or the hue, which is the light. So therefore, it's a soul system, which is an inside job whereby souls are being harvested, whereby their energy is being misused. So until we get a higher level of awareness and the consciousness comes in, whereby we're then managing our own energy so that it can't be misused, we then can't tip the balance, which is the power balance and which is the authority balance that needs to be corrected. And what we're looking to do at the minute is this split that they're talking about that's going on between the 3D and the 5D. It's technically levels of consciousness that are operating within the same construct, which is obviously the earthly plane. But the idea is to
There
raise
are
the
4D.
frequency.
Is there a 4D?
You've got 4D, but you have to apply it slightly differently. So my understanding of it is basic dimensions. So if you think of a 1D object or a one-dimensional object, it's like a dot on a page.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. And then a
So
page would be 2D, and then
it's got one dimension. It's just a blob on a page.
right.
If you want two dimensions, you have to have height and width.
Okay.
So like you could draw a square on a
Mm-hmm.
page because you've got length and width. If you
3D,
want
put
a
the cube bits
third
in it.
dimension, you need the depth of
Yeah.
something, right? If you want the fourth dimension, it's all to do with time.
Ah.
So you've got to think you've got a
You know all
3D
this.
object,
How do you know all
right?
this stuff?
Huh?
How do you know all this?
I sit and work things out, and then I also tap into my pools of wisdom. But then once I get new wisdom, I then have to apply it to everything else I know to make sure it fits within other structures. And then I can be sure with it. So the fourth dimension is a 3D object
Hmm?
moving through time,
Right.
right? The
Yep.
fifth dimension is basically where time doesn't exist
I like that
because you
one.
can go forward in time
Yeah.
and you can go backwards in time because everything is in the now moment, and therefore anything you change now corrects the past and influences the future.
I like that.
Yeah.
So you can do that, can you?
So time is a construct,
Yeah.
right? In the 3D, but it's actually a fourth dimension
Hmm.
when you know it at a higher level. So it's why if you think like Isaac Newton, I think it was said, or was it Einstein? One of them said that time is relative, right? So if time is relative, it's relative to the person or the 3D object that's moving through and experiencing linear experiences,
Hmm.
right? So because you have that, it's a 3D construct rather than a fourth dimensional understanding of what's actually going on.
Hmm.
So once you get into time, you realize that when your consciousness and your frequency elevates, time goes quickly and slowly in relation to what it is that you're doing or not doing, or what's coming up, or what you're processing, or what you're going through.
And when dreams, it's really really quick, but it seems like
Yeah. So you've got to think that time only comes up because there is an event that needs to be marked on a linear path. So you've got to think the space between events is just a void. So time can speed up between events and it can slow down in the run up to or during events, which is why it's like, well, hold on, where did this 3 week period go? It
it's
was
not
Tuesday
consistent.
last week and it's now Thursday, but like it feels like it should be Wednesday. It's like, where's that 2 days gone? Right. So that's because the higher up the frequency goes, the more you condense all of these 3D structures. So it becomes less matter and more wave. And then therefore everything is changeable at a quicker speed. And therefore time isn't relevant because of the fact it's only relevant to you as the individual and what you're doing at the rate of which you're doing it.
And they're trying to block us into time,
Yeah.
thinking in a
It's why you're
time with
taught.
the
It's like,
Greenwich
here's
Mean
an
Time.
alarm and it goes off. Why? Because it messes your nervous system
Yeah.
up.
So
You're shocked
the clock's
into an
going backwards
awakening.
and forwards as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, but
Mhm.
somebody thought it would be a good idea to offset all of these constructs and these times.
Mhm.
And it's like, well, hold on, based on what? The calendar's been changed, the clocks have been changed. Time is then only relevant in relation to other things, but it's designed to distort and put your nervous system into a state of shock.
Right.
Because nobody whose nervous system is on fight or flight or freeze or fawn is ever going to be able to get to a point where their consciousness is enough for them to start thinking. So if you can't think, you can't challenge. If you can't challenge anything, then you can get away with whatever you want because everything else is structured around the lack of knowing and the non-awareness of the collective. Because then what you can do is you consent to everything because you're not challenging it, therefore you're not objecting to it. And therefore you can run structures and systems based on fear and authority solely through that kind of manner. And that's where the whole system's designed. Keep you in a fearful state, control and give instructions and orders. And then if nobody's there to challenge it, then it's acceptable.
Mhm.
And you could argue, well, hold on, unless we're accepting it, it doesn't count. Right. But the reality is you haven't not accepted it. So therefore, acceptance by proxy is kind of
Oh.
just a given.
Mm.
And the only way you do that is by keeping people's nervous system on high alert. Because critical thinking goes out the window. If you ever think, if you're under stress and you're under pressure, the last thing is the logic that comes to you, even though the logic is the only thing that can actually benefit you in that moment. And it's because the nervous system firing and wiring means that you need something outside of you to then give you instruction or some sort of control. And then we're brought up in that manner and we're taught that somebody outside of us has to take control of us from a young age, because otherwise, how do we survive in the world? How do we learn how to do things in the world? How do we know that, hold on, I can get food from here and I can get water from here and I can survive in this way and I can cope in this manner? But it's ingrained from a young age. You're not taught this autonomous kind of, let's get to the point whereby we can just exist and everything is fine and perfectly acceptable. We're taught, well, hold on, you got to be aware of threats. Don't touch the hot water because it'll burn you, etc., etc. You're never taught all of the positives that are beneficial. You're always taught through the negatives, and therefore the learning becomes constrictive. So what we have to do is we have to get away from all of this stuff in order to get to the point where we can critically think. But then once you can critically think, you then have everybody else that can't with a problem because you're
Sounds
going to
like
be
a
going,
nightmare.
hold on, there's something different. And they're going to be going, we don't want to be challenging what we know because we're safe and comfortable here, even though it's in lack and limitation and scarcity. So you then initially, if you're breaking out and you're having awakenings and you're having this consciousness and this awareness upgrade, having to combat a mass army of people that can't do that. So therefore, you've got to either push through it, find certain other individuals that are also going through it. So you've got a bit of a kind of consistency there, or you just get dragged back into the pit of doom, basically.
So I mean, everyone's conditioned, through the schooling. So it's like
Hmm.
they don't question any of it, do they?
No, but you're designed to be a factory worker, follow orders,
Hmm.
and basically that's it. But you got to think, if you look at it realistically, if everybody on this planet that was doing the general day-to-day jobs stopped doing the day-to-day jobs, all of these billionaires, doesn't matter how much money you've got, it counts for nothing because they're not going to step up and run the country. They're not going to step up and maintain everything. They've got no way of doing all the infrastructure. They've got no way of stocking the shelves. They've got no way of
Trying to
ordering
kill everyone
food
off.
because the workers are the ones that actually provide all of those structures.
Mhm.
But yet they're not compensated for providing those structures. So therefore the system doesn't work. But you try and get enough people to do it so that it actually makes an impact and therefore it actually becomes a thing. That's where the hard part is because you've got to tip that balance of enough people that are so you only need just above so like a 51-49 split because now you've got the majority doing the opposite and at some point then you'll get the effect of well hold on there's more of us not doing it than there is doing it
But
but
then we've got the
finding enough people to tip that
144,000. So, the 10 to 1 thing.
so well you've got
Well,
well
no.
there's talk of the 144,000
Mhm.
but are they chosen ones? Are they just people that are here as grid workers? Are they light workers? Are they what are they star seeds? What are you classifying them
5D
as?
people
Because
who
no, because
break
nobody ever
through.
knows. Yeah, because nobody's going to know. It's just a here's a random number, but everybody has their own kind of input as to what that looks like, who that is. And
Where
then the
does
thing with it
144,000 come from?
it's just a number that I think somebody came across that I don't know if it's biblical or if it's
Maybe.
kind of
Okay, but
return
it
of
is.
like Christ consciousness or something like that. But as with everything, it makes sense to a
All
certain
in the
point if
Bible.
you collective. Yeah.
So they talk
But
about the firmament and the waters above,
yeah.
and I mean, it's all in there, isn't it? All of this stuff.
Well, the Bible basically is just a guide
Hmm.
to life. If you ignore all the stories, you ignore all the people, it's what metaphorically can you take out of it?
Hmm.
Because generally speaking, it's like be a good person, right? If you take and strip back all of the fluff that's on it, it's like if you're a good person, but then that only gets you a certain way, or that only gets you a certain to a certain point in your own journey. But then you have to
Seeing
learn all
through the
these
word,
other
isn't it?
skills
Mm.
around that in order to obviously magnify those abilities. But everything is designed to give you, based on what your interests are, little clues as to how you piece life together or how you build and construct your life. So some people will be religious, great. Some people are scientific, great. There's no difference between the two other than the methodology that you get to the answer.
The seek and you will find, ask and it will be given unto you is the
Yeah,
manifestation, isn't it? It's like
yeah.
think that you've got it, and then should
But it's then if you go into like coaching, it's like be, have, do, right? So before you can have it, you have to be it, and then you have to do what that person does in order to then eventually have it.
and you can do
So
anything in
all
it.
you're so you're so you're using the same concept. It's just somebody else will get it in a different format because they're not necessarily religious. Or somebody who's spiritual will look at it slightly differently. Somebody who's scientific will look at it differently. Somebody who's an atheist will look at it differently.
Everyone has their own
Exactly. Yeah,
roadmap.
but if everybody had the same, oh, this is how we learn, then there'd be one book on life, and then everybody would just read that one book.
Mhm.
But we have to have this experience of kind of discovering consciousness as how do we look at these things from a global perspective through different angles in order to get potentially different outcomes. And then that's how we have evolution, because ultimately somebody thought about something differently. Somebody looked at a problem and solved it with a different mindset. And then it's that collective thing that needs to be pulled together in order to then make all these shifts and these changes moving forward.
Yeah, I think
But
that
once
things we can
again,
use
that comes
wisdom.
back
If
to the
you think
critical
about,
thinking.
camouflage and
Mm,
different birds, and then
yeah,
adapting to their environment, that
yeah.
is just they need it, so they get it, kind of thing. It just happens,
But
doesn't it?
but that's over time. It's like generationally that will take time. But if you look
It
at it
works with us
from
as well. The same, the
yeah,
manifestation. It's like
but two
need.
children can be born into the same family and yet have totally different experiences. That's how simple it is.
Mhm.
Because ultimately, the people at the time of your experience are going to be different. Their level of knowledge, their level of awareness, their work, and their healing potentially is always going to be changing. And then the point you come in compared to as a second child compared to a first child coming in is totally different to a third child
And your
or a fourth
history,
child.
your spiritual history or your
Yeah.
rebirth, past lives
And
makes you a
then
different
also you
person
have
with
to
different
remember that
genetics.
you have soul contracts, you have unresolved karma, you have all of these other things in the background that mean you're into this bloodline or into this lineage in order to correct something. So therefore your experience is going to be skewed because maybe you have something unresolved with this person that somebody else doesn't. And therefore you'll get some negative experience, whereas somebody else will have a hugely positive experience because you haven't got the energetic ties from past, you haven't got the cellular memory from the past, you haven't got the unresolved issues or the contracts or the soul lessons and life growth and learning. And then you have to learn to adapt. You have to learn to provide for yourself from a wholeness and a oneness perspective. But then you also have to live the experience, but then also know that you're living the experience in order to take from the experience rather than become the result of the experience,
Mhm.
even though technically they're the same thing. Because if you've learned from the
You have to
experience, you
realize why
become
you're
the
learning
result of
that.
the experience, but too many people get
Almost
caught in the experience, so therefore they can only be the experience. Then the teaching of that gets lost. So what we're looking to do is we're looking to get through these life lessons and learnings, but we look at it from a linear perspective. So if you think life in general, it's like you can take tarot, you can take the arcana, you can take all of the lessons and the
tarot
learning.
cards,
Yeah. But if you have a look at the major arcana, they are statuses.
major arcana. What's that?
Yeah.
I
So
don't.
you can have a look at what's the status of this certain type of person. So like a king,
Oh, okay.
right? Or a queen, or you've got the Hierophant, and you've got all of these other kind of elements of the cards.
Hmm.
And then you've got the pentacles, then you've got
Yeah,
all
but
of the kind
I
of different
think on
sub-divides.
Instagram they keep saying Ten of Pentacles.
Yeah.
Ten of Pentacles. I don't have a clue what the Pentacles is.
But each person that reads the cards reads it from a different perspective.
Yeah.
But yet, if you have a look at what they are, they're basically states in somebody's journey. So it's you going from a page to a king, or a page to a knight, or a page to a, I don't know, whatever else you want to call it, right? But then you've got all of these other things like the Fool card, you've got the Death card, you've got all of this rebirth, but then you can couple that with your life experiences. So when are the planets returning into your star system, right? Based on your birth alignment. What is the collective kind of thing at the minute, whereby everybody seems to be coming up with the same thing? So where there are a lot of people looking at resolved trauma or unresolved trauma, right? Because there's going to be patterns of time during yearly cycles, during sub-yearly cycles. You've then got months that then build into years, that then build into multiple years, that build into decades. And all of these things connect. And then what you're looking to
When I was
do is
listening
try
to
and
that, I was like,
work
oh,
out.
yeah, that's me.
Yeah. But I've just finished a 9 year cycle that started in
Okay.
2016.
Well, I have. I mean, I started reading about neuroscience in about 2016, and then
Yeah.
2019 I started my psychology degree. That was 4 years with the master's, and then I had a couple of years, so that's like, yeah, 9 years.
Yeah. So you've then got, so 2016 in the yearly calendar is a 9 year.
Okay.
2025 is also a 9 year. But then you've got the 9 year cycle between the two 9 years. So you've got a 999 structure.
Right.
So that 999 structure is endings and conclusions before you then go in to whatever your personal year is. But then you've got the personal year, but then you've also got the collective year, and then you've got all of the major events that are going on in that time frame and that period. But everything is interconnected. But you'll only ever know a fraction of the data or the information until you actually step back from it and work out exactly what it's telling you. But my whole spiritual cycle,
Hmm.
my kind of interactions with more narcissism and me
I was very into
rediscovering.
learning about that.
Yeah, and
That's,
me rediscovering my self-worth, my self-value,
yeah.
me connecting more with myself and my own spiritual growth. If I look back at the last 9 years, it's through the roof. It's literally gone kind of global, basically, from a scale of like where I started to where I am now. But in 2016, everything started falling away and fading away and kind of dismantling because nothing was sustainable in the way or the manner that I knew it existed in. So all of that had to be challenged. So the first 2, 3 years were kind of obviously the 369 part of the 369 as in Nikola Tesla cycle. It's like the first 3 years of that were part of an overall 9 year cycle. But the first 3 years was the deconstruction. The middle phase, which is like 3 to 6 years, was kind of just a kind of phase of dotting I's and crossing T's and just kind of balancing stuff out. So not a lot hugely happened, but it's testing the 0 to 3 year phase. So everything fell down. Then 3 to 6 was let's now test the identity. What are you declaring? Are you going to go back to the old? Are you going to change it? Is there going to be a couple of problems? Are you going to come up with some things that you're not quite yet sure of? And then the 6 to 9 is kind of pulling through the preparation for the end of the 9 year cycle. So obviously 7, 8, and 9 is then relevant to whatever each of those numbers are as part of the numerology cycle, but then you have to apply them to the individual. Then you get to the 9 year ending of that entire cycle, and then you have to work out where that is in somebody's chart, or where that is in somebody's human design, or where that is in somebody's personal year and life, in order to then work out what phase they're then going into. But you then have to factor in all of the karma, and you have to
To do
factor
with
in
birth
at some
date as
point
well,
when the
is it?
karma comes in. Huh?
Is it to do with birth date? Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
So you've got to think it's like most people have their Saturn return around 30, 31.
right.
And usually the Saturn return is all to do with like father figure or
Okay.
male, like predominantly the male figure. So usually different people at different times will obviously come across that age range and therefore they'll have their Saturn return. So whereas it's not everybody is experiencing it, there is subdivides of people that will be going through certain patterning at that time.
Hmm.
And usually, what you find is where the masculine feminine dynamics aren't balanced, they then get kind of shown, and you'll have events and scenarios re show. So, if you have a problem with the father figure, then you'll have a problem with partners. You'll then have a problem with anybody of that gender. And what it will be doing is it will be showing you where part of your kind of understanding of how things work isn't balanced or isn't aligned. So that could be trauma, that could be abuse, that can be just a balance issue whereby obviously that person was there too much or wasn't there enough. But then obviously we've got the masculine feminine dynamics in self, and then that in itself gets tested. So everything that you know around those
That's definitely gone a bit
structures.
skew in the world, hasn't it? The
Yeah.
masculine
But this is
feminine.
half the thing. But then these things play out in a multitude of forms. And these multitude of forms is why we have all this segregation and why we have all this separation. Because it's like, well, hold on, you're different. Yeah, but you're just experiencing it through a different lens.
Mm.
Like if you have a skewed masculine feminine dynamic, you could just have really bad relationships. But you could also be part of the LGBTQ community because what you're doing is you're experiencing it through a different manner, whereby ultimately you're trying to discover yourself or aspects of yourself that weren't fully formed at an earlier stage of life from a place of balance.
They're being programmed though from,
Yeah.
all the
But then all of these
iPads.
things are genuine experiences and how they can play out, but then they're weaponized from a place of turning people against each other. But all you're doing is learning the same lesson, but just through a different
All this
form of
woke
lesson.
stuff came from, wasn't it?
Yeah,
And the world went crazy.
yeah. But all we're doing is we're ultimately just looking at life and looking at the lessons and looking at the learning, but we have different modalities in which we can just have these experiences. And there is no right or wrong experience as long as you don't become the experience and you actually take the lessons away from the experience and then balance, obviously, accordingly from there.
Mhm.
So, fun and games.
Yeah. So the question I was going to ask you earlier was, what about all these planes going missing? That plane went missing. Um, was it in Hong Kong or Japan or something?
See, I
A
don't
while
generally
ago.
follow the news.
Maybe not.
But I've like, for
This is
quite a
like about
while now.
9 years ago, 10 years ago, or something like that.
Yeah, for quite a while now, I control what I can control in terms of my own life and my own structure, my own setup. Anything that has to be brought into my awareness will obviously show up. But one of the worst things I found was looking at the news and looking at all these events because you don't have the good news channel. You just have everything that's wrong with the world. So
They're
when we
all
talk about
fake
all these
anyway,
planes like going missing, etc., well,
but it's all
what's it designed to do? It's designed to put you into a
yeah,
state of fear.
yeah.
But ultimately, the airline industry is probably one of the safest industries going. So
Yes,
if you think
all
more
these
people probably
crashes.
die in road accidents than they do is in aeroplane accidents, right? So all it's there for is designed to put people in a sense of fear, shock, and once again, it's a control mechanism.
Mhm.
So, what do I think about them? I don't think it's great. And obviously, everything can malfunction at some point in time if it has to. But the fact that it's plastered all over the media just for an effect is probably not
It's
really the best
it's
thing
all
to do.
fake. It's all constructed, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think once again, it's just a control system.
Hmm.
And the more that we're waking up and the more that we're challenging things and the more that we're aware of what's going on, the more this kind of thing is going to have to come into play to try and overcome that balancing of like the consciousness. So then you end up with these major pandemics that then kind of try and put masses back into their place. But at some point, everybody's going to do enough work to then go, well, hold on, like, I don't need to worry about that anymore. There's bigger things to worry about. And then that will then be the turning point. But then at what point does that become the turning point? Because then you have is it prearranged? Is there a time frame where some sort of massive shift is going to happen? Is it going to be a gradual thing over time? Are there going to be events that are designed to become choice points whereby we can either challenge it or we accept it or we don't challenge it and therefore it becomes accepted by default?
Hmm.
But all these things are going to be playing out in the next, I don't know, 5 to 10 years.
It's going to be a massive population decrease
Yeah,
due to the, you know, COVID injections and whatever
yeah.
else they're putting in the air and the metals.
Yeah. But all of this stuff is going to be designed for us to start picking and choosing the reality that we actually want to experience.
Mm.
But you're never going to know because not enough people are together in order to make the difference just yet. So time will obviously tell, but it's one of those areas that you can never know for sure. But all you can know is that something is in progress
Yeah,
because
manifest,
everything's
manifest
going
an
to be
uprising
happening.
or
Yeah,
manifest,
yeah.
in 5D, change
Well, you've
the
got to think
stars to
if
face
there's enough
the
people waking up at the minute and the consciousness, the awareness, and everything that isn't good in the world is coming up for clearing or kind of being brought to our attention,
Mhm.
then at some point there will be enough people to do something about it. But you can never know numbers because you don't have everybody in one place.
So what do you think's behind the wall, the ice wall?
See,
Alien
I
tech.
I just don't know.
Science.
It's like you could look at maps and you can go where there's other lands out there.
Hmm.
So if they believe that there's other signs of life in space, normally, like the Martians and whatever else you want to refer to them as, or the blue aliens,
No, but I
then
don't think space exists. I think that's just like
right. But you'd assume that you'd
that's.
just apply that concept to outside of the wall.
Hmm.
So the wall is going to be either, if you have a look at like Tartaria, like the Tartarians built the Great Wall of China in order to keep the Chinese out.
Hmm.
So what if the ice wall is there to keep other entities out or to contain us? Right? They're the two angles that you'd look at it.
With
So what
container.
that would then mean is that outside of that wall, you either have similar structures whereby there are other containments, or you don't have the containment anywhere other than where we are, and everybody else knows or is aware of everybody else as if it was just a set of continents. So, like, we know that Africa is a continent, right? We know that Australia is a continent. Well, what if there's land A outside the wall that knows of land B,
Hmm.
but yet it's not the same structure as we are in a containment perspective? Whereas you could look at if we're the center of the world, right? Well, we're contained in this little circle, and then everything else is out from that circle.
Hmm.
The only thing is, everything that's outside can't come in, and we can't go out. So everything that's outside knows or has access to itself,
Hmm.
unless you're inside, in which case you only have access to what we have access to. But once again, you're never going to know until somebody has access to it.
Hmm.
So you can speculate, you can look at all the old maps, you can look at all of the pre-existing data, but at some point you would expect there to be some sort of interference. And then the question becomes, what is that interference? What does it look like? And how is it then going to be used? Because if it's something that potentially is beneficial, it's going to be made negative, as with all things. Because what they don't want you doing is getting on the bandwagon with it and running with it.
Hmm.
So it's like, what's the next thing? Oh, all the aliens and the attacks, all the asteroids that are going to come and hit us. Right. Well, they're just designed so that you don't go looking for things. But if somebody actually goes looking for something, then you're going to get punished for looking at something. Right. So you've got to go and get out of all of those hurdles, or chances are you've got to have a lot of money in order to buy your way out. But then you could argue it's like if you have a look at Soul, as in like the Disney like film,
Hmm.
then are we literally just contained here before there's then some other structure that we then move into? So is it a solar system as in we're just reharvested? And therefore, is it designed to then break out of that system, or are you designed to just fundamentally be part of the system? So can you escape, or aren't you designed to escape, or is it just a continual cycle of you're just expected to do things a certain way?
Or it's just like the
Yeah.
Truman Show, and they're just having, it's
Yeah.
just amusement,
Yeah. But like the sky, if you've ever looked at it recently, it's like it's as if it's a projection.
right?
Because I remember when I was younger, like you'd look at the sky and it would constantly be moving and it would look real, right? But then when you get to a certain point in your awareness, you realize that it's as if it's on like sliders. So part of the sky will move and part of the sky won't move.
Yes, it's weird, isn't it?
It's as if like there's a film that goes behind. So like if you have the square on, but it goes behind,
Mhm.
and then you look at it and you're like, well, hold on, why isn't the rest of that moving? Is it like if it was a circle,
You
you'd
think it's the
expect it to
wind or something?
spin, right? But it doesn't. And then that in itself is like, well, hold on, that's just a hologram or a projection. So then you can go down the whole, well, what else is there going on? in terms of simulation. But I can
There's
guarantee
no
if I went
holograms, it's
outside
so real.
and
You
walked
can't
up the
tell
road,
what's real.
yeah, but I could guarantee if I went outside now and walked up the road, there'd probably be about 4 or 5 cars that then come out of nowhere going up and down the road. Then it'll go silent. But if you don't notice these things, right, and you're not paying attention to them, you just think that there was just enough cars going up and down, and you just think it was normal. Whereas if I go outside, I'm like, well, hold on. Yes, I expect a couple of cars, but I'd expect a flow of cars. I wouldn't expect 2 or 3 really quickly and then nothing. So
Mhm.
it then gets you into the thing of, well, how much of that is you just filling a hole of, well, if I go outside, there should be cars. But you don't ever think of it that way. You've got to think, you're never going to meet the people. And if you ever have a look, you don't look and see if there's anybody even in the cars.
Oh, for God's sake. So you're making it up, or
So the question
just like a
is, how much of
simulation?
that is you background filling your environment just so it functions in a certain way?
Distort, delete.
Yeah. Because there's been a couple of times that I've walked into some shops and it's as if the moment I get close to the shop, it plays. So similar to like you were saying with like the Truman Show,
Mm.
as if like the people are there, but they need activating by the time you get there to then do something that they might not necessarily have been
There's a
doing
film in
otherwise.
this,
Yeah.
isn't there?
But it's quite interesting, but then part of you kind of goes, well, how much of this am I kind of just making up? And then you realize you're making all of it up, but yet you're playing the story and the narrative. All you have to do is change the story and the narrative. But then how much of that is
In
immediate
psychology, you're told that
manifestation?
there's a stage of growing up when you think everything's made up and around
Yeah,
you as a teenager.
yeah.
Maybe we're just
But
told
but what's the first
crap.
thing that gets shut off? Your imagination.
Mm.
First thing that goes, oh, why are you believing that you can do this and all that? And why do you think there's fairies and I don't know, pink fluffy unicorns and all this other stuff? Maybe there are until you lose sight of it because it gets shut off.
Mhm. Well, dragons are supposed to be real.
Well, dinosaurs,
The
I reckon,
dinosaurs
were
aren't
dragons.
supposed to be. However, they find,
Dinosaurs, I believe, were labeled as instead of dragons.
right, okay. But why
So if
would
you have a look at it, think all of the dinosaur skeletons that you find are not actually dinosaur skeletons. Because if you think
dragons?
if the world
What happened to
ended
the
because
Bible?
an asteroid hit the Earth,
Mhm.
but we can assume based on the lack of a globe theory and the lack of us flying through this void, which is the darkness of space,
Mhm.
where the hell's an asteroid going to come from? Right? So that then technically debunks that theory of the asteroid destroying all of the dinosaurs. So then you have to look at, well,
Devastate.
logically, there's probably dragons. Dragons could quite easily have died out. Dragons could potentially be outside the ice wall
Yeah.
and they just came in,
Ah.
right? So you can kind of logically work that into a structure. Whereas it wouldn't make sense for humans and dinosaurs to exist at the same time. But yet, where did humans then come from if there was only dinosaurs? So that in itself doesn't sit right.
Mhm.
Then you've got the cavemen, but cavemen would make sense as early human beings because you've got the lack of the cognitive development.
Mhm.
But then how much of that is
They make all
fictional?
these amazing buildings then. Yeah.
Yeah. But then how much of that is fictional? Because we know that energy is energy, and that if you understand energy over time,
Energy is matter.
then you're never going to go back to a caveman era because somebody at some point must have known about energy.
And it was free.
Yeah. So all of this stuff, you can look at it and you realize that a lot of it doesn't have any real substance. But all of this obviously is for entertainment purposes
Yes,
only.
absolutely. If anyone's watching, which I don't think they will be, maybe all of a sudden become successful and then everyone will watch like further down the line.
Yeah.
It's definitely worth a watch, I reckon.
Yeah.
What time is it now? How long have we been? We were chatting for about 40 minutes before we actually turned it on. So I don't
Yeah,
know
I think so.
how long it's been recording for.
We're about 40 minutes if that was the case.
Hmm.
But I think
Okay,
that's
let's do another
quite
one. That was good.
widely
Let's do
done.
another one next. Container. Uh, yeah,
Well, what have you got for me now?
we'll think of something, won't we?
We kind of part struggled with that one. But yeah. Um,
That was good. Or do you want to carry on?
I don't know. We could just leave it there for today.
We could, and then we could just, yeah, come back.
Yeah,
Oh,
because otherwise
should
it's
we do
like
it 7 o'clock next Monday?
can do,
Okay,
unless you want to do earlier
earlier.
in the afternoon.
Okay, we'll play it by ear. Cool. All right then, nice one.
Right.
I
I
might
shall
see
see you
you on
then.
live sometime.
Well, yeah, it depends. I'm usually in just the business ones these days.
I didn't. Which one? The day one or the
So
evening?
tomorrow evening.
Yeah. So
So
Brooke.
yeah, whoever the lady is in the afternoon, I don't rate her
Yes.
as
No, I didn't.
highly.
I didn't rate her either. But then
No.
look, I can't
No.
understand why she's doing all these ads and she's just wearing underwear. I mean, her niche is women, but she
Yeah.
does all of this kind of lingerie type look. We've seen her ads.
I haven't said
It's
no.
weird.
I showed up last week to the afternoon one because I was like, oh, I need some information. So I figured if I ask there, and then if I needed something else, I then had the evening session. But ultimately, I went to the afternoon one. I was like, I don't get I could run it better,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, she could.
So yeah,
I
I
went to
basically
the Friday one and he was kind of bullying me, saying, "Why haven't you done your stack?" And I said, "Well, I haven't decided if I want to use it yet because it's like
yeah
because you have to carry on using it then, don't you, after it's finished? So
yeah
after April, I would finish my course.
yeah
I don't know whether I want to spend £250 a month for kind of indefinitely.
no. I think they've got offers on there, so
Oh,
you can pay. I think it's like 5 grand
oh right.
for like a lifetime kind of access to it. But I
God,
think they advertised it recently at about 10K for the whole job lot lifetime access. I think they
that's a lot.
have other
That's,
things they can do with it, but it's it's good for what it is,
do you think?
really. Well, I haven't built it all out yet, but I'm slowly getting there. I'm redoing all
Yeah.
my socials at the social media at the minute.
At the
Ugh.
minute, it's,
But yeah, I'm flipping that all over. But yeah,
yeah,
it's
I should
a
probably
lot of
do it
stuff.
while it's part of the, I should probably try it out. But it's like, how many clients do you need? And do they have to have automated email? I don't like getting automated emails off people. I'd rather they just send me a message, you know?
Yeah,
It's automated and you don't reply to it because you know that's just like an automated message on social or on.
yeah. I mean, you've got to have a pipeline that works for you. You've then got to have a list that works for you. You've then got to have an email chain that works for you. So I'd rather have people basically get pissed off that I'm emailing them rather than having nobody to email.
Yeah. You need a
So
magnet.
yeah,
And this would be a magnet.
yeah.
This could be a magnet.
So we'll see. But I'm still
Yeah.
in that no man's land
Yes, I
of
am.
where's the client coming from?
Yeah, I need to practice.
Yeah.
I'll do
So
NLP. You need to do the accreditations as well.
yeah.
Do the exam.
So they're my secondary thing. I'm doing the what is it? The ultimate launch. Then I'll do the accreditation stuff because my coaching is fairly on point anyway, so I
Yeah.
don't need to do that side. But it's tech stack and ultimate launch. But some of the structures, like you sit in these videos like an hour long, then you've got to actually action them. And there was one a week for 12 weeks, and it's like there's a lot of content. So
The NLP is like 22
yeah,
weeks or 24 weeks or something.
is it?
It's my third time of watching it. I was just started again.
I'll have to do it at some
I
point,
have
but
listened to most stuff, you know.
yeah. My immediate thing is working with people and getting stuff done.
The holistic one's good. Meditation.
Hmm.
That's a bit like NLP because you visualize color and stuff and
Yeah.
they take them to.
I get the feeling, well, I say feeling, it's not really a feeling. I get the kind of sense that some of these things I will go into them and just pull them all apart and realize that they don't do anything
Mhm.
like beyond a certain level. And that's usually where I get to. So when I did hypnotherapy, it was the same thing. There's a world-renowned hypnotherapist and you're taught by this person, and it's really good. And then you finish it. And then I got to the point, I'm like, it's incomplete here, and here. Because if I do this, and this, I can do another phase of all this stuff that's above and beyond what I was taught. So, yeah, we won't go into that one. But a
Mm.
lot of the stuff that I look at, I end up reverse engineering and realizing that there's better ways of doing it and there's more in-depth ways of doing it.
Mhm. Right.
So, yeah, I usually outgrow
Probably
things
chat
relatively
GPT is doing
quickly.
it all anyway.
Yeah.
I just think.
So I outgrow things relatively quickly, which is both a good thing and a bad thing.
Oh, good. All right. Well, I have to cut this bit off, won't I? The end
Well,
bit.
yeah, yeah, you have to cut this bit off.
Or maybe I'll just leave it on.
Yeah, it's up to you.
We'll see.
It doesn't make any difference. We're just talking anyway. Yeah. If people want to find me though, they can find me
Oh
on
yeah.
TikTok with my handle is now Chris Paprotny rather
Okay.
than physical
Say it now,
finesse as it
Paprotny.
was on previous episodes.
Right.
And that's the same on Instagram now. And YouTube is still at physical finesse.
Hmm.
Or you can go to my website, which is www.physicalfinesse.com.
Great.
So
And I'll put it
all
on
good.
YouTube. And when I get around to doing a Substack, which I haven't yet, I'll
Yep.
put them all up there. I should probably put the radio version, the audio version, as well as the video. But
Yeah.
I've done the videos so far on YouTube.
Well,
Um,
you've got a cut off
and
point now if you want to edit
subtitles.
that other bit out.
I really need to cut this bit off. All right. Well, have a nice week. I might see you on
Yep, and
around.
you.
All right.
And we'll
Take
speak
care.
soon. All
All
right,
right.
bye now.
Bye. Oh, and end recording. End